Do you find time to write?
No, I don't find time to call my family. I don't find time to sleep enough. It's really about life and death, and no sentence, no paragraph, no novel can compete with that. Really, it can't.
So, Kateryna, women are not required to serve in the military. It's a choice, yes. What inspired you to join the military?
Many reasons. I can name more than one, maybe even more than two. Probably to summarize, I just could not stay away. My previous professional roles seemed meaningless, or rather, maybe not meaningless, less useful. And I wanted to join straight away, but my daughter was very, very small. So as soon as she grew up a little bit and I settled kind of family stuff around, I joined.
What has your experience been like overall, transitioning from civilian life to military life?
It's a very interesting question to me, interesting to reply, because I don't feel like I belong neither to civilian life nor to military actually fully. And it's a kind of identity challenge, not identity crisis, identity challenge, because I definitely feel I'm kind of not a civilian anymore, but I'm very different to many people in the army, very different in many respects. And so I kind of still probably looking for my place, still looking forward to the moment when I can say that I belong fully, although I don't know whether it will be a totally good thing. Anyway, army is just a huge melting pot. I heard about it from different people. I heard about it, but before I experienced it, I did not understand what it really means. And the transition was actually, I think it still is, because I used to serve in a unit as a combat medic in the drone unit, and it's one kind of work. And now I'm rotny medic, which is kind of the whole unit medic in a assault unit, and this is very different. Like infantry, extremely, like almost all my work is different now. So I'm still learning, I'm still fitting in, I'm still trying to do my job as well as I can. Yeah, so I think the transition is ongoing. It's been only a month since I transferred to the new unit, and I think it's still challenging.
Do you think that there's any big misconceptions that about women serving in the military that have to be pushed back against in like public opinion?
Again, my experience is very different. Like if you asked me 1 month ago, it would be one kind of answer. I felt a lot of misogyny in my previous unit and also in my attempts to join, so to conscribe. I have been rejected many times. I felt I have been looked down upon many times. So all the kind of stereotypes that you can find about attitude to women, I've met them all. In my current unit, it is super women friendly. It's people friendly, I would say, very much. And there is really no distinction in who serves, a man or a woman, apart from the job. So I would say it very much belongs on the unit, and it's also kind of new learning experience to me that it can be so different. That respect can be unconditional and trust can be unconditional, and I mean within limits, of course, within professional limits. I mean, and also, for example, we have very strict physical requirements, and they are gender neutral. So you either do it or you don't, and women compete in those exercises on the par with men.
As a woman who is preparing to get her Ukrainian citizenship, this debate about whether women should be obliged to serve in the military or not is very interesting to me. And I like to hear from female service members themselves. What do you think? Should Ukrainian women also be required to serve in the military like men?
I definitely think that combat preparation should be mandatory and also good quality for men and women, for example, in the universities, or actually regardless of their age, I would say. So kind of civilian preparation, civilian duty to learn and to be prepared, I think makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
There is really very little stuff, maybe no. Yeah, there's nothing a woman can do in the army, literally. Again, it just depends on the competences. So, whenever I'm told about physical strength, I laugh a lot because I've seen so many really weak men, exhausted men, men with poor health conditions. So it's really not about gender, it's about preparation and physical condition rather than gender. Apart from everything else, again, what can't a woman do? Can she shoot? Can she operate drones? Nothing, right? So in terms of competence, I think it's the same, and everyone should be ready. And then I think before we talk about mass and obligatory conscription of women, we should review mobilization and demobilization policy in the first place. And once we do that, we can talk about women's role.
Transitioning a bit to your writing, I'm wondering, do you find time to write now,
No.
or has your relationship changed to writing?
No, I don't find time to call my family. I don't find time to sleep enough. We don't have days off. Or rather, we do on kind of, but they're not days off. So, in my current unit, the attitude to work is very strict, and this is the most hardworking team I've ever had in my life. And I consider myself a hardworking person, but this team exceeds kind of my level of hard work. So you really have to have a lot of stamina, and it's really, how do you say in English, orden. It's a kind of a community where you reject everything else for the sake of the service. So I absolutely don't find time to write.
Do you miss-
Absolutely not.
Do you miss writing?
I don't miss writing. I don't feel like I have stories to tell which haven't been told. I feel like I have to learn a lot because on what I do, like currently what I do, I am training soldiers and I am packing them for their wyhit, so their
Entry into the, yeah.
And actually, despite the fact that it's safer for me, I find that so much depends on what I teach them and what I give them, so much, you know. So it's really about life and death, and no sentence, no paragraph, no novel can compete with that. Really, it can't. So I invest totally and fully myself into my work. What I'm upset about is I also don't find time now for the medical studies. I'm a student of medical college, and I used to have some time for it before, but now I don't at all. And this again matters because if I miss something there, then it weakens me as a combat medic as well. So this I do miss. Otherwise, I feel like my how do you call it again? The source of writing is like closed now, which is okay.
Yes.
Which is okay.
Before we continue with this video, I wanted to ask you to take a moment to like and subscribe. It's more important than ever to support Ukraine. If you want to help support us get the word out about what's happening here, please consider becoming a paid member of the Kyiv Independent today.
For our viewers, I want to highlight some of your work because it's also really important for a discourse of Ukrainian culture, especially your book Ukrainian Sunrise, which was published in English. I was wondering if you could just talk about it briefly, basically why it was so important to show that despite these Russian propaganda narratives that Donetsk, or as Donbas as they say, is historically, culturally Russian, and your work, your field work showed why this is not true.
Yeah, this was, I think, very relevant, or still relevant, but also it was relevant when Russia started the aggression in the east, and many people perceive the east of Ukraine as a kind of really either pro-Russian or actually Russian region, that people, you know, waited there for Russia there, and also where I think this kind of concept of civil war was not alien to some people, even in Ukraine, let alone abroad. And I really wanted to challenge it because it's kind of so far-fetched. There can be, of course, traitors in the east as well as in the west as well as in the center, right? So those who support Russian secret services, who give coordinates and so on and so forth. But as a territory, as a cultural terrain, there is so much to talk about and to show as the kind of, you know, this prolongation of the Ukrainian history, Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian traditions, Ukrainian language. Like currently I work, for example, in Slobozhanщина, so this is Kharkiv Oblast, and part of Luhansk Oblast is also Slobozhanщina, and I personally, you know, when I see the architecture, architecture is absolutely amazing. also including of those Western colonizers who built these industrial plants in the red brick, you know, and I recognize them everywhere. Language, of course, you know, when you talk to people from the villages, the Ukrainian is rich and they come on. I mean, when I start talking about it, to me it's so self-evident, you know, so obvious. But then it turns out that my book was needed, and not only mine, of course. There are many other works around the topic, thank God, to kind of challenge the myth of you know, this pro-Russian population, which was very much nourished by the party of the region, which the political party, which on the one hand, you know, kind of usurped the image of the people from the region, and on the other hand blocked many grassroots activism from being shown because it controlled the media. And I very often underline that my book talks about the time when social networks were underdeveloped or absent. And I think that with social networks, with Instagram, with Facebook, with the TikTok, we would have a different picture. You know, if popular bloggers could talk, right, and demonstrate what various trends actually are on the ground. But there were none back then, and so I collected some of the stories and told them in my book.
And I wanted to conclude by talking about your novel. It's not yet in English, but hopefully soon, very soon it will be. It's also related to the war. And I know in Ukrainian society right now, there's kind of a debate about how we can write fiction. Like, what's the best, poetry, non-fiction, fiction? But there's been quite a few very interesting novels that take place during the war, yours included. So I was just wondering, like, how you approach this and what kind of things a writer has to keep in mind when they are writing about a topic that is very much ongoing.
Yeah. Another very interesting question, Kate, to reflect upon. The novel, which in Ukrainian is called Yevshan, and in English we will see, was a very risky matter to me, because I wrote it about the topics which are very controversial, about leaving the country, you know, how it is perceived, right? In leaving your country in wartime, even for a reason, but whatever, right? People judge, people talk. So I don't perceive it as a kind of emigrant novel, but it definitely takes the topic of immigration. And I deliberately depicted, I think, almost every character in a controversial way, to a bigger or lesser extent. And my job as a writer, and this was a challenge to me, was to depict every character as sincere. And then the reader can decide for themselves how much of what they can tolerate and what they find acceptable and what they find unacceptable, and what can be understood or maybe forgiven and what cannot. So I just strived for sincerity. I collected the images, collected the words in which people express themselves, and I thought, okay, can I empathize with them? I can. Then I try to depict them in this way, so that the readers can also empathize and decide for themselves what is acceptable and what is not. So I really tried it not to be kind of ideological, not to demonstrate the stance of the writer of what I find is right to do. I don't know if I succeeded, but this was the approach which I had in writing.